All right, hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of FTU Life After the Military. I'm your host, Tony Rodriguez, and today I'm joined by Kijuan Amey. And I wanted to have him on the podcast because he has a very interesting and inspirational story, and I thought that it would be good to have him on to share his experience because our podcast isn't just about talking about the difficulties that people face once they transition, but also about their victories and their successes. And so, with that, Kiwan, I'm going to pass it over to you and feel free to discuss anything you'd like.
Awesome, Tony. I appreciate you having me on your platform, man, to discuss my story because it truly means a lot to me that I do get the opportunity to share it. First and foremost, because of the simple fact that I'm still here. And when I tell my story, you'll understand why I say that. And secondly, because I just truly believe I have a purpose for still being here. And I was born and raised in Durham, North Carolina. Graduated high school 2010 from Southern High School. I wanted to go to college right out of high school, but apparently that wasn't the the right course of where I was supposed to be going because there were some admission hiccups when I went to apply for college, and I was supposed to, initially go on that what they call freshman orientation journey. So that was a bit of a hiccup, and they had no idea who I was. And I'm like, well, if you guys don't know who I am, I'm act like I don't know who you are. So I went to the recruiter's office, the military recruiter's office. I believe it was the next day, if I'm not mistaken, after I made that phone call. And initially went to go talk to the Navy. And reason I went to go talk to the Navy is 'cause I have about six family members that were in the Navy. And so it's quite um, a bit of a heavy, I guess you could say, footprint in that. We had one Army. I never got to meet my great uncle who was in the Army. I had one Marine and one who was in the Navy that came out and went Coast Guard. But that was in that period of where when it came out, he was playing professional ball over in Spain, basketball that is. And then that didn't work out, so he went into the Coast Guard. And my younger sister, she was also Coast Guard. I mean, excuse me, Navy. And then my youngest brother is currently in the Air Force. So him and I are Air Force. I was the first one to do the Air Force in my family. So first gen in my family to do Air Force. Um, but how did I make it into the Air Force if I just told you I went to speak to a Navy recruiter? Well, the Navy recruiter talked me out of going to the Navy. And a lot of people like, wait, he did what? And what I mean by that is he generally was not answering, my questions that I had for him. The legitimate question that I was asking was based off of what I told you in the beginning. I wanted to go to college.
Right, right,
And the military can pay for school in different ways. I was just trying to figure out how one way worked, which was the GI Bill. And he kept showing me this pamphlet that was the same information that I read online. Well, that's cool that you're showing me that, but I read that already. I don't understand it. I'm only 18. I don't get it. You do because you're the recruiter. They pay you to know this stuff.
right, right.
And so as I'm asking him these questions, he just keeps, referring to this pamphlet as well as he kept talking about jobs. And I'm like, dude, I get you need a job in order to be in the military. Who's just gonna pay you to do nothing? I don't know too many people. And if anybody knows about a job where you can get paid to do nothing, please give me a call. I'll give you my phone number happily. And so, I quickly made my way of escape out of the Navy recruiter's office, only to go literally across the hall to the Air Force recruiter's office. I didn't even leave the building. That guy wasted maybe 45 minutes of my time, and I was like, this is crazy. I'm out of here. And so I went across the hall to the Air Force recruiter's office, and those guys were the two recruiters were just standing there talking to each other, and nobody else in the room, just them two and then me. I've now entered, and they're staring at me, and I'm staring at them, and they're like, "Can we help you?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, I think I want to join the Air Force." And so they're like, "Yeah, come on in." And so, that's literally how I basically got into the door of the Air Force. Now, walking into their office, the initial big office where you would sit in the lobby area, in a sense, uh, there was on the wall like a pennant, and it read Community College of the Air Force. And I said, man, I think that's a sign.
Yeah, yeah,
You
definitely.
know, yeah, and so went in there and I started talking about the same stuff that I asked the Navy guys, but this guy was giving me answers. He wasn't just shoving a job in my face, and I'm like, see, this is what I'm looking for. And so
Mm,
him and we just talked, and it just felt so natural, and so nothing was forced. And you know, uh, I made the best decision as far as a military and me. That was the best decision. I already knew I wasn't going to the Army or the Marines. I mean, I'm just being honest, that was not my cup of tea. So I have nothing against those people that went that way, except for the simple fact that don't come talking down on me because all the facilities we use are better than yours. You had a choice. You had a choice, and you chose to go that direction. So don't talk down on us because you made your decision. Hey, as they say, if you made your bed, you gotta lie in it. And I made mine, and I'm lying in it very well. So moving forward, having to pick my job after I took the ASVAB, that's the test you have to take in order to get into the military, and scored really high. Scored really high. I think I scored like an 87 or something like that. And I think it's out of 100, if I'm not mistaken.
yeah.
And
I think the top score is 99, so that's really
Oh,
high.
okay,
And
yeah, yeah,
87.
yeah, yeah. I had this long laundry list of jobs, man, that I could choose from. And when I tell you, my recruiter was excited because he hadn't had a person like that score that high in a while. He was like, dude, uh, when can you come in? And I'm like, tomorrow? Like, I was like, what's wrong? He said, oh, nothing's wrong. Your job list came in. And I said, oh, okay, yeah, I get to go see what I can, pick. Hopefully it's one of the jobs I'm thinking about. Now, listen, when I originally joined the military, my job or thoughts about jobs were to do something that I would consider conservative and potentially safe. So I'm thinking like, mechanic, something like that, like a vehicle mechanic. I want to work on like trucks or cars or something. Like, hey man, just leave me in the shop. I don't need to go out and do nothing. And so, um, and the reason I say that is because I took 3 years of vocational class called automotive tech. So I knew all the book knowledge to it. So when I got into the classes, I'd be like, oh, this would be cake. And so when I told my recruiter that after he got my job list back and I said that to him, he said, absolutely not. I was like, what do you mean? That's what I want to do. He's like, dude, you have way more opportunities here. And he's like, they're way bigger. And he started showing me stuff that he's highlighted already before I even got there. And man, like Load Master was one of them, aerial gunner, but I knew I wasn't going to do that. I can understand me shooting at somebody, but that means I'm getting shot at too, potentially. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
definitely.
And so I'm like, yeah, no, I'm not doing it. And then there's one job called in-flight refueling specialist, and that would be the one I chose, which means you literally get to refuel airplanes in mid-air. So while we are flying, I am able to refuel another plane.
You know, the thing when I think about that is I always think of the movies where they show that the plane's being refueled, but
Mm.
there's always an accident. So that would scare me personally to take that job.
Listen, I tell everybody, I said, please don't look at that movie Air Force One and think of it that way, because that was one of them. Air Force One, when they hijacked the plane or whatever, and they
Right.
needed gas, and this was towards the end of the movie where KC-10 pulls over top of the plane, like it literally pulled over top into the view. Hollywood's amazing, by the way, just letting you know. Um, and and I'm gonna tell you why here in a second. When they are trying to connect the two planes with the boom, and all he does is scratch the nose of the aircraft, and that thing just ignites. And I'm like, are you serious? Are you serious? If only you knew some of the stuff that we what goes on up there, then you would definitely know that's not how that works. So, man, it's some crazy stuff that happens up there, man. And I've seen, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying everything's perfect, and I'm not saying you can't, ignite fuel up there, but because I have. I've seen that, but it wasn't because of the planes being connected. It was because of an F-18 Hornet messing something up, allowing the fuel to come out, and now it's going over top of his engines and the exhaust, to where it's getting ignited by his exhaust.
Yeah.
So he had threw in the power, and I think ignited his afterburners, and I mean, when I tell you that bright orange light in the sky, I was like, that is not the sun, okay? Like that's all I could think. That is not the sun. Somebody help me. And I just covered my face, and we have a emergency procedure word that we yell out, which is breakaway, and that is for us to separate. I couldn't say it. There was nothing in me that could make me say that word. The only thing I could yell was profanity, okay? And rightfully so, you know what I mean? Like literally, I thought my life was done. I could Tony, I'm not even lying. I felt the heat. And I'm in a whole nother plane, flying in the sky up at 20 something thousand feet. I felt the heat hit me. So
Yeah.
all I could think was this was it. All bets are off. This was my first deployment ever in the desert, and he's killed us. you know, you know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
man, so that's one crazy story that I do have documented on my history in the military, because we had to go home or back, not home, but back to the deployed base that we were stationed at, and write an incident report in regards to it. Yeah. I'm sure his wingman, who had already got gas, by the way, so he's happy. He's like, "What the heck did you just do?" Like I'm sure he's talking cash trash, man. And in the military, when stuff like that happens and you ruin it for everybody, oh, you're buying beers, okay?
Oh, definitely,
You
definitely.
are going back to the pub, you're buying beers, buddy. And might be buying for the whole bar, depending on how bad it was. So yeah, man. And so that was a job that, man, sheesh, I don't even know how to explain the just skill that's required, the knowledge, the mindset, because I had to have the brain of steel, man. I couldn't flinch if I wanted to, you know. I mean, that did make me flinch, but I wasn't supposed to. At that point, all bets were off, dude. And it's just one of those things where you're trying to figure out, how do I see this job, as something, because I already knew it was very serious, but I saw it as fun too. I was like, this is so cool, man. There's nobody else in the civilian side that's doing this. There's nobody else in another branch that's doing this. Unless it's like, Army maybe refueling another helicopter or something. That's it.
yeah,
But they're not refueling jets like planes. The Air Force is the only one that refuels the jets. And so also with countries, there's not many countries that do this either. And the countries that do actually do this, we taught them. The Americans
yeah,
taught them. And so it's so cool, man, to say that, we pioneered things, and we are the lead of a lot of different things. But it just goes to show you that I truly really cared about my job. I was also an instructor, so I did teach it as well. So that was pretty cool, but also scary as heck when you got a new guy coming out of school and you're just like, "Ooh, what do I deal with today?" You know, what am I dealing with today? Or even an older guy, you know, E9, if he's
yeah,
ready to, retire,
yeah,
and he's looking at you, maybe an E4, E5, he's like, what are you going to teach me? He could have
yeah,
that.
yeah, definitely. And
And
I'm sure things get updated, right? Procedures
well,
throughout the year, maybe
yes,
technology, right?
yes,
This,
but what it end up boiling down to is, man, they're like, oh, I've been in this job for 20 plus years. I'm like, yeah, but you haven't been doing it 20 years consecutively. Because when you get into certain roles, they put you somewhere else where you're just at a desk job. You're not usually flying all that time. And
yeah,
whereas I am, because I'm the young buck trying to get some experience, so they throw me on the plane. And this is so interesting. I want to say say this one. I had a guy challenge me in a sense. I had just not too long gotten out of instructor school. So when I tell you I'm sharp, like at this point, because when you first get out of instructor school, you're on it. I mean, nothing gets past you. And so I'm coming out of instructor school, and this guy, I think he was an E8. I believe he was either E7 or E8. I want to say E8. Either way, I'm just an E4. And I'm fresh out of instructor school. And we're on the plane talking. And we haven't even taken off yet. And he asked me this question about something that was on the ceiling of our aircraft, a black box. And he said, "Hey, what is this right here?" I'm like, "I don't know." Now, I just told you I'm fresh out of instructor school. You think if they cared about that box, they would have told me, right?
yeah, definitely.
So obviously they didn't. So I said, "I don't know." And I look him right back in the face, "I don't know." He was like, "Well, why don't you know?" I said, "Why should I?" He said, "What happens if something happens to it?" I said, "I'm going to call maintenance. I can't fix it. That's what I'm going to do." I said, "The fact that you're even asking me about that means you're fishing for something. What do you want? You're just trying to see what nonsense you can pull out of me, or you're trying to be this smart guy. There's no point." And that's all I could think. There was no point in you pointing that out. And he's like, "Well, that's the HF antenna. That's what it's connected to." And I'm like, "Yeah, I really didn't care for real." Like the only time I'm going to use HF is if I'm like going overseas. Like I'm not using that here stateside. And if I'm using it stateside, something's happened.
Yeah,
Even
definitely.
more reason,
And
even more reason why I'm not going to care, because we're probably not going to make it out of here. You know what I mean? Like, dude, you're asking me questions I legitimately care less. And I mean, it's just those types of things that they warned you about in instructor school. It's like you're gonna have those people. I promise you will. And I was like, come on, come on, they're not gonna be that bad. He's like, okay, I'm one of them. And I said, what? He's like, yeah, no, I'm that guy. When I leave here, it's gonna be some heck to pay. I said, oh God, you're just a nuisance. You're not one of those guys. You're a nuisance. But anywho, man, I had an amazing career in the Air Force. And it was cut short because I actually wanted to commission and become a pilot. I
Okay.
didn't want to do refueling the my whole Air Force career. I wanted to become a pilot, not only in the Air Force but also commercially. You know, and I'm gonna tell you straight up, it was because of the money. And listen, it wasn't because of the leadership role. I wanted the money from it. They made way more money than I did, and it seemed like the hardest part of their job was taking off, landing, and signing papers. You know what I mean? Like, unless you were literally in a leadership role, like a commander or something like that, that's really, man, because I was in the reserves. So taking off, landing, and signing paperwork, making sure that paperwork is correct. I already know how to do the briefings because I've been sitting in these briefings for the past 6.5 years. I already know how these go. This is nothing. And it's the same thing over and over. The only thing that changes is where you're going, where you might be landing, and what plane you might be refueling, whatever, which is basically whatever your mission is. That's the only things that really change in your briefings. And so I'm like, yeah, I'm in the wrong side of this thing. Yeah, they make so much more money. And I'm like, not only are they're flying in the military, they're flying in the civilian world too. When you're a reservist, you can do both.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I'm like, God, we had this guy who was a lieutenant colonel in the freaking Air Force, and I mean, it was super high captain in the commercial world, where he flew from Seattle to China, and that's the only legs he did. He didn't do anything else. Now, I don't know what you know about commercial pilots, but if they're flying overseas, that's where the money is. Flying around this domestic hops and all these crap, that's pennies to them. But when they're going overseas like that, those long hops, ooh, they are making a killing. This guy was making like, well, what year was that? 2016-ish, 2016-ish, 2017 time frame. He's making over 400K in just civilian pay. That was just his
Yeah.
civilian job. This is not even talking
Yeah.
about the Air Force side of it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So I was like, I'm missing something here. So yeah, that was part of my way of thinking, getting through that side. But again, here we go now, speeding up to where all these things that have shifted because I did 4 years active in Palace Chase is what we call it when you don't finish your active duty commitment, but you go over to the reserve or the guard. And what happens is what they make you do is whatever time you had left on your active duty commitment, you now have to double it and put it on your reserve commitment or your guard. I said, that's not a problem. I said, that's easy because I already knew what my over, excuse me, I already knew what my general, outcome was going to be, which is going to be a pilot and which is going to carry me through that 4 years quick. It's going to blow through it.
Yeah.
And so uh, I switched over to the reserves. And then as I'm making my way through not only the reserves, but now I'm going to school full time because I need a 4-year degree to become an officer. And I had my own business as well. I became the CEO of my own business called Kiwi Enterprise, where I did social media marketing, website design and management, and photography for small businesses and things like that. So I'm doing all this at once, by the way,
Yeah.
and simultaneously, and was doing it very well, like at a high level. Not just, oh yeah, I'll go dabble over here,
Yeah.
and then I'll step my toe over here. No, I mean I was just slamming, dude, just killing it, and loving every bit of it too. But May 5th, 2017, man, was the day all that changed. That was the day I had my motorcycle accident. And so when I, mentioned in the beginning how, you know, I'm just glad to still be here, still to
Yeah.
be here, even talking to you, man, because every doctor that operated on me counted me out. I even spoke to one face to face. This was well after all the surgeries. This was like a follow-up appointment, a couple months after I got out of the hospital. So I wasn't even in the hospital. This was meeting him as a follow-up appointment at a clinic, So uh, I first off, having the accident that day, I had to work for the military that night, May 5th. But I was doing photography for my business because I was going to update a website that I managed that weekend. And um, as I got done with the pictures that I took, I wanted to ride my motorcycle a little bit longer because it was a really nice day. I live here in North Carolina. And so that's also where I was stationed, at Seymour Johnson Air Force Base in Goldsboro, North Carolina. But I lived in the Durham, North Carolina area. And so I finished up the shots, and then I would go to the lake here in North Carolina called Jordan Lake because, again, really nice day. I had my bike out, and the ride from my apartment to where I was taking the pictures at was only about a 10-minute ride. And I couldn't just put that bike back up after a 10-minute ride. I mean, I could
Mhm.
have, but really, as a true biker, you're just like, nah, I need to ride this thing. Like the oil haven't even hasn't even gotten hot enough. It was one of those things. And so I rode to the lake, which was like I think it was about 30 minutes from where I was taking the pictures at, which is great because that's a 30-minute ride there, maybe like a 35 to 40-minute ride to my apartment from the lake. So I was like, oh yeah, that'll be perfect. And I get out to the lake just fine. And if you see my book cover, that's my which is called Don't Focus on Why Me from Motorcycle Accident to Miracle. The book cover has my motorcycle right there in the middle. That was actually my bike, by the way. That's not a bike I found on Google or something,
Okay.
images
Yeah.
or whatever. That was actually my bike. Um, and then the backdrop, which is trees and a dock and a little bit of water you can see and rocks off to the left side. That's the lake that I went to. And that was the actual place that I went to go sit. I took both of those pictures, by the way, the picture of the motorcycle and the picture of the lake. I just had a professional cover designer stitch them together.
Okay.
And so, you know, here comes a car while I'm sitting there at the dock. Here comes a car flying by, and it kind of startles me and brings me back because I was literally zoned out and, meditating like I always did when I went there. And I was like, oh, shoot. And so I checked my watch because I always kept a wristwatch on me. Being in the military, you got to be on time. So
Yeah.
I said, oh, shoot, I got to go and, go grab my stuff to head to the base. And so jumped on the bike, take off. And I'm going down this highway, which is literally on a two-lane highway. So here in North Carolina, you got these lot of country roads, man, little back roads and stuff, and that's what this one was. Highway 751 is what it was. And when we, so the trees that are on my book, they're really tall. Those same trees are along this road as well. This highway that I'm riding on. Now, the only time they're like cut back so that you can see stuff that's coming is that like somebody's driveway because people literally lived off of this road. An intersection. There was this really sketchy gas station, like really teeny tiny. And you're just like, yeah, I'm not stopping there unless I have to,
Yeah.
I absolutely have to. And then there's like a produce farm slash nursery, whatever you want to call it, um, where, there was different crops out there. So as I'm going down the road, listening to music actually, because I had Bluetooth capability in my helmet. Um, I mean, it's just such a nice day. You would never even expect something like this to happen to you. And I think that's also kind of a piece of the puzzle is that it was such a nice day. You're not expecting anything crazy. You're just cruising. You're now in a comfortable mode, in a complacent zone. And it's like, yeah, this is life. Until it's just, this car pulls out in front of me. A silver Honda Accord, man. And I mean, when I say everything went wrong, everything went wrong. I didn't have nothing to do. I'm running 55 miles an hour, which is again the actual speed limit. So it's not like I was speeding. Um, and now it's like, what do I do? Because I've taken the rider courses, I've seen the videos, all of that stuff, man. But you don't when you go through these motorcycle courses, they're teaching you all these maneuvers and stuff, how to dodge, how to stop, how to whatever, figure eight, whatever you want to call it. They're teaching you all of these maneuvers at a parking lot speed, not at 55 miles an hour. So unless I like race bikes or something, where they're
Yeah.
running 200 miles an hour, I am not ready for a car to pull out in front of me. My reaction was not that good. A reaction time
Yeah.
in the sense of a motorcycle, you know what I mean? And those bikes don't stop that well, as people might think. You know what I'm saying? Just because they're small doesn't mean they stop. I mean, they do, but it's giving you it's going to be the same thing as a car. It takes time and distance. And I didn't have any
Yeah.
time or distance.
Yeah.
And so at that same intersection, though, from the police report, because I don't remember anything else of the actual accident. And the reason I don't is because your brain goes into this protective mode when it's a lot of trauma done to, or done to it, or whatever you want to call it. So from the motorcycle accident and the police report, that's what I'm getting at, is at the same exact intersection. There were two cars behind this silver Honda Accord. And they said they both, not just one car, but both cars, said that they saw me coming. They don't know why he didn't. Well, that's an
Oh,
easy pace to win.
yeah.
When I took him to
Yeah.
court, that was easy because two cars now saying that they saw it and they witnessed it and grateful for it. But at the same sense, man, it's a life altering change. I wear these shades not to be cool. I mean, thank you. I look cool. I appreciate it. But it's more so to give a, sign that there is something wrong, as well as uh also have light sensitivity in my right eye. So I need to wear shades when there's like really bright light because I'm sitting here beside a window where light protrudes in. And the sunlight is usually that type of light that's really bright, as well as that annoying light they shine in your eye at the eye doctor. It sucks. Uh, so my eyes literally instantly start running if I'm looking directly at it, or can get a whole bunch of light protruding into my right eye. My left eye sees nothing. It's completely blacked out. I have a lot of scar tissue, and damaged blood vessels over there. So, um, I'm 100% blind, and gosh. I had to be life flighted to UNC Hospital in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. Well, I would spend 2 months of my life. Never, ever, ever wanted to spend any time in a hospital, but I did that day because of that day, shall I say. Um, and I don't remember anything from the first month. So from May 5th until June the 6th, I know nothing because I was in a medically induced coma while they did
Oh,
countless surgeries on me, literally from the top of my head all the way down to my right foot. And the only thing that was not, or things that were not literally like operated on were my arms. They are fine. The only things that, like, I guess you say I have a problem with is my index finger on my left hand because I
Okay.
have trigger finger. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, but if my finger gets overly exhausted, it could stay stuck like this.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
my
Yeah.
other fingers would be like that, but this one would stay stuck down, and you can't extend it. Like it will not extend by itself. So I literally have had it happen. So I had to pull my finger out in order for it to come back out. That was the scariest thing I ever experienced. I was like, why can't I move this thing?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know? And it's just a neurological thing. It's almost like it's like, no, stay there. Don't move. And I had to pull it out. And man, I instantly went from pulling my finger out like from that position, that trigger position, pull position, to drinking water. I was like, I must be cramping or something. I need to drink water. I'm a
Yeah.
sports player, so when something does, that kind of maneuver, I think it's a cramp. Hey, it's time to drink fluids. And so that is, I mean, I guess you can count my clavicle in a sense connected to the arm, but it's before you get to the arm to me, because they did have to do some skin grafting from that area to recreate my eyelid on my right side.
Okay.
The bottom portion anyway. It was torn off in the accident. But yeah, that's where I would spend 2 months and 1 month in a medically induced coma.
So,
Go go
for
ahead.
me, so coming from my perspective, like that would be enough for me to be retired from the military and just like never do anything again and just go fishing every day or whatever, right? But you did not decide to do that. Like you wrote a book, you're a motivational speaker. What led you down that path?
Other people? I wish I was making that up. I mean, as funny as it sounds, that's really what happened. Other people, man. I started talking to them and telling, like I'm telling you my story right now. I started telling them my story and what happened to me, but I'm telling them this with a smile. And they're like, how can you tell these stories and still smile about it? I was like, because I made it. As terrible as everything was, and as bad as I looked from all the reports I got, from people who saw me, and there were a lot of people who saw me in that ICU. Um, I made it, and I'm still here. You know, I'm a faith believer, and I know it's because of God. That's the only reason I'm still here, man. The only reason, because I'm gonna put it like this: I had no clue I was even still in this world. No clue. So he could have easily taken me, and I would have never known, you know. Because again, with how bad my injuries were, I know nothing about the accident. I cannot tell you from my perspective what happened in the accident. I can only tell you from the police report, from the witnesses that were there, and from the people who came to see me. Like all these other people's stories is what compiles together for me to try to formulate something. I don't know anything about it. I'm like, wait, I was in a motorcycle accident. Well, why was I in one? Like I'm asking all
Yeah.
these questions. Who did this? Who pushed me off the bike? you know, and so it's so crazy how your mind, so your neural system works. But I mean, it's actually a really powerful thing, first off. But I think it's very helpful that I don't remember anything, because I wouldn't want to relive that nightmare, because that's how I would see it, as a nightmare, you know? And the other thing is, I, I just, it's so crazy to me because I really am thinking about this thing now. I don't remember a thing about it. And I woke up a month later thinking I was just in my bed. I'm thinking I'm literally just in my room. I had no clue I was in the hospital. None whatsoever. First off, I hadn't opened my eyes yet. That's why I didn't know. Secondly, I'm trying to figure out what the heck, who is in my room and why they talking? Like how they
Yeah.
get in here? Who gave y'all a key? Because I live by myself. My girlfriend didn't have a key. My mom did, so I could see how she got in. I'm like, what y'all plotting against me or something? So y'all trying to take my stuff? What's going on here? I'm confused. And just laying there in the bed, I woke up so peacefully, Tony. It was crazy. I don't know if you've ever been under anesthesia, but it's powerful. That is a powerful drug. First off, if administered, this is why they have anesthesiologists, by the way. If administered incorrectly, it'll burn the crap out of you. And I know because I felt it. I remember that lady administering that anesthesia or that anesthesia in my right hand. And this was my right hand, and I remember that like it was yesterday. And she was just talking to me all happy go lucky, and I'm just getting wheeled in the wheelchair, like whoop, doop, doop. And I'm like, ah, ah. And she's like, what? I said, it's burning, it's burning. And she was like, Miles, like, my hand's burning. And she's like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Next thing I know, I'm gone. That's how powerful that drug is. That's scary. And so,
Yeah.
with me having been, not only knocked out unconscious due to the blow to the head, but being kept in that state because of a steady drip of that anesthesia,
Yeah.
steady drip to keep me there. It was like, what the heck? I lost a whole month of my life. Where did it go? Where did it go? And I could probably go back to the hospital and look for it, but I don't want to go back over there. I don't want to go back over there, man. There's some stuff I do not want to know about what happened to me. I mean, I can feel it every day. I don't want to know. I feel pain every day, man. People just they see me and they're like, "Oh man, you looking good, man." I said, "If you only knew. If you only knew." I was just at the gym yesterday working out. And my back and my lower body are like the worst parts of what was damaged. And so yeah, my skull was crushed in. That's cool and all, but what I feel every day is my back and my lower body, my legs. So I was at the gym yesterday doing deadlifts and lower body and like hamstring stuff. When I tell you my right knee tried to give out on me, I don't know, three, four, maybe even five different times at the gym, but I'm fighting through those different exercises because I know what I'm doing. I'm not hurting myself, I'm strengthening myself. There's a difference. And it's like, dude, I'm tired. I know you're tired, but we got to get through this so you can get stronger. And that's all I could keep telling myself. I know you're tired, but we got to keep pushing. We got to get stronger. I know you're winded, but we got to keep pushing. You got to get stronger. And dude, I go to Planet Fitness. So, that's public. This is
Right.
not some private sector that I'm going to work out. I know people are looking at me. I could care less because I'm not doing it for them. I'm doing it for me.
Right.
It's for
Right.
me
Right.
to get back stronger. It's for me to get back under heavyweight and feel it again. I'm actually hoping to compete again in powerlifting and sport competitions like that. So it's not for the people that are in that gym. It's for me. I'm taking this time on my own. And so, man, I when I tell you, woo, there was a couple times I said, "Oh man, I gotta get through this." And my mind you know, the first thing is your mind starts to play little games with you. So what I did to distract myself was I said, what can I do to get through this last set? Pulled out my phone. I said, I gotta play a song. I gotta play something that is gonna keep me inspired. And I played a song, and I'm listening to the song and singing with it while I'm working out. And man, I didn't even feel that pain. I didn't feel anything. So it's like, let's go. We got this. Let's do it. Come on. And I was like, yeah, let's go. Hey, man, listen, when I tell you I'm in the groove, I'm in it. Swing it, baby. Let's go. So, man, I tell you, there are challenging days, and then other days I'm like, okay, this is easier. This is easier. But yeah, so that's just a little bit about what I have to deal with on a daily, man.
No, that's I'm a little bit older now. I'm 51, and getting out and working out, sometimes it's a little bit harder, right? Like I have
Yeah.
problems with my shoulder, my back, but I have not been through anything like you have. But
Mhm.
for me, it's just getting out there and I like to run. I'm a runner, right?
Okay.
I'm a short, fat guy, but I like to run, right? And so I still find the time. And like you said, play some music, you get out there, and it just helps you out. You find that
Yeah.
motivation to just keep going.
Yeah, for sure.
But we were talking about like you wrote a book. Can you tell
Mhm.
me something about that? Like how what gave you that idea to just what, I think I'll write a book today.
Aha. And no, it wasn't that wasn't it. uh so kind of going back to the same thing I said earlier, other people, man. They not necessarily inspired me, but they just the way they kept, saying, "Hey, man, your story is so powerful. You've got to put this out here, not just for us, but for the public, man. Like they need to hear an inspiring story. They need to hear a story of overcoming adversity and the will to overcome." Because that's what you did. That was a will to overcome. That wasn't just like, oh yeah, I got in an accident and I'm fighting back. No, dude, you're fighting back faster than a lot of people expected you to be. First off, not just a lot of people expect you, they expected me to be a vegetable. To the point where my mom, my family would literally be taking care of me, feeding me, bathing me, clothing me, wiping drool off my face. They thought I was not going to be able to function the same way. And I'm not making this up. I have been to, I think it was two different physical therapy appointments where they called my name and I stood up and they're like, wait, what? I was like, what happened? I'm looking around the room like I can see something. And then I said, "What happened?" And I'm talking to the person that I'm with. They was like, "They looking at you." I said, "Huh? Didn't they call my name?" And so we walked to the back, and the guy was like, he was talking about introducing and stuff, and he's talking. I was like, "Hey, why did you seem so surprised when I stood up?" And that was when he told me what I just told you. He said, "After looking at your charts and everything you've been through, there is no way I thought you would have been walking in here. At best, I would have thought you would have been in a wheelchair." And I was like, well, I'm here. And man, I had been proving people, not necessarily proving them wrong, but like just giving them hope, man. And that's all I care about. If I can give somebody else hope, because it gives me hope too. It's like a reciprocal thing. If I can give somebody else hope, it gives me hope in return
and
that I
and
can keep going further.
I don't want to. disagree with you, but I would say that you're not proving people wrong, but I think that you're proving yourself right, and you're
Yeah,
proving that other people can follow your lead,
right.
and they can
Exactly.
be right as well.
hmm Exactly. And so, when it came to writing my book, man, my best friend, God rest his soul, yeah, he had he lost his battle with cancer. Not cancer, I'm sorry, Jesus, diabetes. He was type 1 and he was since like the age of 4, man.
Yeah.
And so him and I, we had known each other since we were 5 years old. I'm 33 now, but since we were 5 years old, we met in elementary school. And so he came over after he found out about the accident. I was already out of the hospital by then. So he found out late, late. And he was like, "Man, I gotta come see you." I said, "That's fine." I said, he was like, where you staying at now?" I said, "Where my grandma stay?" He's like, "Yeah, yeah." I said, "Yeah, I'm at her house." He's like, "Okay, okay, I'm gonna be over there as soon as I leave from my appointment." I said, "Okay, got it." He comes over, knocks on the door. I'm like, "Who is it?" And he says his name, Sam. I said, "All right." So I open the door. And he's like, "Man, I didn't expect you to open the door." I said, "Well, who else was gonna open it?" He said, "You here by yourself?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "Grandma's at work." And he was like, "What?" And I'm like, because I told him, that I was blinded and everything like that, what all happened to me. And I'm sure when he was at his appointment, which was with one of my ex-girlfriends from when I was in grade school, she knew all about, oh, well, I don't know how much she knew, but she knew quite a bit about the accident. And I'm sure she told him. And so, he's probably expecting the worst, and again, everybody did because when people were talking about me from what they saw in the ICU, yeah, no, if you're still talking about me from that, yeah, you're thinking the worst. Because I looked literally nothing like myself. From what I remember people telling me, I looked nothing like myself. First off, I was 2 times the size of myself, my normal self. And then I was all been out of shape in so many meaning of the word, been out of shape, But he was the first person to kind of be that catalyst for, man, you should definitely write a book. He actually he said, "You're like a real life Superman." And I was like, "What?" I had never been called a superhero in my life. But when he said that, I was like, "What?" He's like, "Dude, I just sit back and think about all the things that I complain about. And listening to your story, there's no way I should be complaining." And I'm like, "Ah, I mean, you could say that, but everybody has something they're dealing with." You know, it's not to minimize what you're dealing with. It's just to say that we all have something we have to deal with, and I do my best when it comes, especially to mentoring and coaching, is to tell people, I tell you my story for encouragement, not to minimize your problem. Because you do have one, but it's not to minimize it. It's to help you deal with it and understand that you can get through this thing. And so, yeah, he was one of the main people that pushed me to write that book, man. And he didn't on Earth anyway. He didn't get to read it. He passed away before my book came out. But I did put one in his casket with him. Well, thanks to it, or that was approved by his mother. And I wanted to put a paperback copy in the casket with him, along with a letter I wrote to him. And so I believe in that kind of stuff, and I wanted to give that to him, both signed by me. And so she was like, "Absolutely." And so they did that. But yeah, that's how that all came to fruition, man.
So, what's the title of your book, just so everybody knows?
Yeah, again, the title is "Don't Focus on Why Me: From Motorcycle Accident to Miracle."
Okay, and where can they get that book? Is it anywhere?
Well,
Or
you can get the paperback version off of Amazon.
Okay.
You can also get it, Kindle, and the audio versions are on Audible as well as Apple Books.
Okay. Yeah, that's great. Like I said, when you reached out, or when I reached out to you originally, it was, yeah, this is a story that needs to be shared, because I like the way you put it, right? Like everybody has something that they're going through, and you're not trying to minimize their issues, which a lot of times that's what you hear from people, like,
Yeah.
oh well, what are you complaining about?
Right.
Your problems aren't that serious. It's like, well, how,
Hmm.
and that's it's wrong for us to assume that just because what we see from a person, that that's all they're going through. They might be dealing with a lot more than just what we can see.
Exactly.
And so you're also a motivational speaker. Can you
Hmm.
speak on that a little bit?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, man. Listen, I love speaking, as you can hear. I'm a motivational speaker. My main focus is, of course, on overcoming adversity and hardship and, just resilience. Those are my main focuses, but geez, you can break that thing down in so many different ways that it can touch on a lot of different topics. There are a lot of different things that you can overcome in life. And us as humans, we do because we were designed to adapt and overcome. Everything about us, if you think about the four seasons we deal with every year, you're designed to adapt and overcome. And so it's just all about how you do it. And that's usually where I come in, especially with my resilience coaching. I come in to give you kind of that structure, that mindset shift, how to, in a sense, that how to. And so when you talk to me in regards to either resilience coaching, mentoring, or even just being a speaker, I'm going to come in that format of, first off, experience. Who better to teach you about something than somebody who's been through it? I don't want, I mean, granted, yeah, you can read it out of a book. I would prefer you've been through this yourself.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? If you've never sliced a watermelon, I don't expect you to be telling me how to slice one.
Yeah.
So, because it's not going to come out good on either one of our ends. We might cut each other. So, uh, my thing is, I speak from experience and I speak from my heart. And you get a lot of people do when they do speeches, they do these cookie cutter speeches. It's the same one over and over. The same cookie cutter speeches. Listen, the only thing cookie cutter about me is my name and what happened to me. That's it. Because I can't change those. They're in the past. But
Right.
how I deliver something now is completely based off of what you're looking for or what's needed, shall I say. So that's how I go about, you know, um, attacking a speaking engagement. And I say attack because you you don't want to go into this thing just kind of winging it either. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is I view this thing as if I have a mission to get done. And the mission and goal is to get my message across as clear and precise so that it goes straight into your heart and you have something to hold on to.
Yeah, that's right. That's actually a great way to go about it, because you have to make that connection somehow, right? Like it
Mhm.
has to be personal. If it's not, then it's just somebody talking.
Yep, exactly.
So, all right. So we're going on about 55 minutes now. And, I like to keep these podcasts at about an hour, because
Mhm.
if I went over once at about like an hour and a half, and that's the least downloaded episode. People just don't have the attention span for it. And
That's
I
right.
totally understand. I totally understand.
Yeah.
So in these last few minutes, is there anything else you'd like to add? Maybe a web address where people can contact you or something?
Yeah, sure. If you would like to get in touch with me or again find my book, You could go to my website, amymotivation.com. That's AMEY motivation.com. You can find my book on there, Don't Focus on Why Me from Motorcycle Accident to Miracle. Or you can go search it, like I told you, on those different platforms like Amazon, Kindle, Audible, and Apple Books. If you would like to book me as a speaker, I do have a book me link on the website. Also, I do have some videos on that website of one of me speaking and also some of me playing the drums because I've been playing drums like I've been a musician since I was 7. So, over 25 years now, I've been playing drums. And then, if you'd like to follow me on social media, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. You can all of it. You can find me on at Kijuan Amey. That's Kijuan Amey.
All right. Well, I want to say thank you very much for being on my podcast. It's been an honor and a privilege. And I'm going to go right out and purchase your book, the Kindle version, because in my old age, I just can't carry that many books anymore. But a Kindle is easy to carry around. So again, thank you very much, and from everyone, thank you for your service, and you are without a doubt a motivation and inspiration to us all.
Thank you, Tony. Again, I truly appreciate you having me on your platform.